Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. This is Grad School Buddy, a show that gives simple answers to questions about grad school. I'm your host, Ebele Chukwumoyi, a development economist and impact storyteller who has a master's from Georgetown University and a bachelor's from the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. We hope the show helps you make better grad school decisions. Let's dive right in. Hello guys, and welcome to another episode of Grad School Buddy. I feel like every time I start this podcast, I always say this is my favorite person. But for real, I mean it this time around. I have been asking this particular favorite person to be on this podcast for a year and 6 months now. And I feel that number one, she has a very exciting personality, but also she brings a very great perspective to this podcast in the sense that it had been 1 or 2 decades since she went to college when she decided to go to grad school. I think this episode is very important for people who think like, hey, it's too late for you to go to grad school. It's never too late. And I know I say it all the time. So I thought it was important to bring proof. And so I brought Carrie. As usual, I'll start by reading her bio and then I'll turn it over to her to introduce herself to us. Carrie began her career as a police officer in the New York City Police Department over 20 years ago. In October of 2012, Carrie was promoted to detective investigator and was assigned to the detective bureau for 5 years. During her time in the detective squad, Carrie became part of the elite hostage negotiation team. As part of her duties, she has also taken on the role of instructor for the Counterterrorism Division's Public-Private Liaison Unit. In this position, she has been a lead instructor on active shooter incidents, terrorism awareness, and hostile surveillance detection. She has also recently worked as a public information officer for the Office of the Deputy Commissioner of Public Information. Detective Reilley is the host of a national podcast entitled Break in the Case: True Stories by NYPD Detectives. She has also worked as a liaison to the mayor's office for the police commissioner. She helped write the police reform plan that entails public safety while building mutual trust between police and the communities they serve. Before joining the NYPD in 2002, she worked for a range of organizations in media, including CNN, CBS, WFAN, and ESPN radio networks. Carrie has more than 5 years of experience as a producer, guest booker, and audio engineer. Carrie recently graduated from Georgetown University in the spring of 2020 with a Master of Arts in Public Management and received a Bachelor of Arts in Broadcast Production and Management from the State University College at Buffalo. Okay, Carrie. First of all, I feel I just learned like at least 2 new things about you. But can you tell the guys that are listening why you hold a dear space in my heart and why you are the person that you are?
Oh my gosh, Bailey, it's so weird, like hearing about yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like when you were like reading it out, I'm like, what? Yeah, it's strange because I can't believe it's already been like, all these years. And I in my head, I feel like I'm 24 actually. So it's weird to hear it, but I'm happy, you asked me to be on the show, and I'm hoping you people out there who feel that they're maybe a little bit older to go to school or whatnot, you're really never too old. And, I just want to say that I'm here for you guys in any capacity, whatever you need. I'm going to stop right now.
Okay. And so I want to ask you a little bit about your time before you came to grad school. What was a day in your life like?
Well, a day in the life for me before grad school is, I'm on call for being a hostage negotiator. So I go to work, and what happens is we get called to different jobs. So you don't really know how your day is going to be like before you get this call. So for instance, for me, I actually was, at the time before grad school, I was working for the Deputy Commissioner of Public Information. So I was a spokesperson for the department. So I dealt with media and, we would deal with calls from them all day. We'd go out to scenes of any kind of emergency type of situation, whether it be a building collapse in New York, whether it would be any breaking news story like that is like newsworthy, like maybe a homicide or which, we get a lot of homicides in New York, but like specifically that happens in Manhattan, that's a big deal. Or it could be anything from like, a bridge jumper to say a person that's in danger to themselves. So, I would either go on a call for a job like that as a negotiator, or I would respond as a spokesperson for the department. So it would be being there, helping set up for news, press conferences, things like that. So it was, it was a little bit stressful sometimes. That's really basically what my, day in the life of me before grad school was.
But, when you were talking about the aspects of your job, something that you talked about was that once in a while you had acted as a negotiator. So like, has there been any scenario where, for instance, when you talked about like the possibility of having like a bridge jumper or something, like where you've been able to talk somebody out of, or is there any case, I don't know if that's what you call it, that is kind of really dear to your heart, where you were like, like this is the reason why I do the things I do. This is the reason I am in this profession.
Wow, I know it's like one of those questions. Each job to me where I could be a part of makes me realize, I think being a negotiator is probably the most favorite thing, because you really get a chance to see and help the person at the worst part of their life, really. I mean, when we're there, it's never really a good situation. So it's, for me, I feel that people just want their story heard, and just listening to them, for me, and having them voice what they're going through at that time. And being a negotiator is not easy, because they don't just pick anybody to be a negotiator. There's probably like over 100 of us, but we're in a department of like 34,000 officers. So to pick one point of like something that sticks out in my mind, there's different jobs that do, but there's jobs that went well where, we were able to, meaning we, because I always look at it as a team-based thing, not just myself, because I could be the negotiator and I'm going to have somebody next to me. There's normally two of us. So I'm going to have, like my coach there for me to help me through it while I'm talking, to bring up points to get that person out of what they're dealing with at that moment. So it's always like, for me, team-based. But when you can save that person from themselves, that's the biggest reward. And just being able to save their life. And sometimes, it happens where things have happened where, a person's jumped and you just feel so helpless. But as long as at the end of the day that you've done everything you could to get that person through it, and but you always try to help them no matter what, you just think of every situation as trying to get them through it, or getting the people through it alive, because you deal with hostage situations where people will hold them under with weapons and things like that. And I've had that. And, it's scary. It's a scary type of situation, but, that's, there's so many different things that, have happened, that there really isn't like one particular instance that's really stuck out in my mind, I should say. It's like, it just, at the end of the day, just, like I really enjoy every part of it, even though it can be draining, and just having them come out of it and getting that hug sometimes from that person, like, because you get that rapport, you develop that rapport with them. It's like really, and sometimes you may never see them again. It's tough. It's tough in that way where you're like, okay, like I always like think about things like that where I'm like, oh, are they okay now? Like I hope they are, but it's it's just part of the job. Get through it. So those are the things that just stick out for me overall than one particular.
Thank you so much for sharing, Carrie. And I also recognize the fact that, some days, like you said, it's exciting when you're able to hug these people because you were able to talk to them at a time when they needed somebody. But I can also imagine that there have been other times when it's been really tough. But I'm glad that you're able to find strength and positivity to do the work that you do.
Oh, thanks, Reilley. Yeah.
Something else that really stuck out to me was that you talked about how spontaneous the day could go. So at what point in the schedule did you think, hey, you know what? I want to take a pause from the craziness that is working in New York, and I want to move to DC for grad school. How did you start thinking about that? Was there something that particularly happened?
It was, I won't forget it. It's so funny you bring that up. I working with the public information office, and there was a new unit that was formed within the NYPD. And I went, there were a couple floors down in the building. I was working, at headquarters, and the unit was a couple floors down, and it was the Office of Professional Development. And my boss was like, just go down there and talk to him. There's, his name was Fred Tanner. He's like, just go down there, see what this unit's about. It's really interesting. And we'll see if we'll get any of the media to cover it. I was like, okay, great. So I went down there, and I met a sergeant there. And now he was telling me when we started talking, I was like, he was really excited about the unit and all the different things that they had to offer. And part of the unit was, what they had to offer was scholarships. And he brought up the fact that there was a scholarship for Georgetown University and for graduate school. And I was like, oh, wow. I was like, you do things like that? He's like, yeah, it's our first year. He's like, I actually attended graduate school at Georgetown University. I received the police commissioner scholarship and ended up choosing Georgetown and using the scholarship towards that. And basically it's a paid leave of absence, and you go to school. I mean, you have to pay for school a little bit of it. They give partial scholarship. You have to come up with the rest. But, the experience, he just told me about the experience. I said, my grandfather actually graduated from Georgetown, and my cousin teaches there right now. And it was like, wow. I was like, Georgetown. I was like, I can't believe that NYPD would offer something like this. So for me, I said, well, what do you need to do to apply? So he gave me the information. He's like, you have to apply to the school. Once you get in, then we go from there. If you don't get into the school, then which I'm thinking, oh, great. Like, am I going to get into this school? Because I've been out of school now for all these years. And I was like, I'm in my mid-career and thought of, well, I got to think of something when I retire, or even trying something different in the department, because I always like a new challenge. But I was like, all right, you know what? Let me talk to my family about it. Talk to my mom about it, and like my sister, and just different people. Like, wow, going back to school seems really like scary in a way, because I don't know if I'm, first of all, smart enough to go to Georgetown. I mean, I have to, like, I don't know what I have to do to get into the school, but my grades were pretty decent. For a bachelor's, they actually were good, but I didn't know for Georgetown good. But I applied and I was able to get in. I wrote a personal statement and just wrote how much Georgetown meant to me and my family, hearing about it growing up. So for me, like, it just seemed like the right call to just do it and, just try to get in and see what happens and go from there. And see if I'll even get the scholarship, because I have to compete against other people who apply for it. So it's not like they only have one. So I was also worried about that too. I'm like, well, there's other people on this job at that really good. And am I going to be able to compete against them? Am I going to get this? So it just was, for me, just something that I thought was the right call after, really, I had to really think about it. I'll be honest, I had to really think about it. And once I did, I made up my mind. It was full throttle and just hope for the best and ends up working out. I end up getting it. So I was like, wow, I can't believe that my grandfather passed away. I just thought, wow, he's gonna be so proud of me getting into the school he went to. And, that it just meant something to me to be able to go there. So.
I know how family legacy schools are like a real big deal. And I think someone on this podcast has also said that going to Duke is a thing in their family. So I'm glad that you were able to be the person in your generation that kept this going. And it's also so providential that it was at the time where you went to check out that new unit that you learned about this opportunity. And so at the time where you started, you talked about, hey, you had made up your mind to do this. Was there ever a time where you had some concerns?
I think the biggest concern for me was at the time, it really just was, all right, I'm going back to school. Am I going to be able to, just in my head, am I going to be able to do this? Like, I really didn't know. Like, I believed in myself, but I still had that little bit of doubt. Like, what? I've been to school so long. This is crazy. Like, can I really do this? And my brain work as good as it did, like, back 20 years ago. I just kind of was like, wait a minute. Then I'm gonna be older. Than, even though I feel in my head I'm still in my 20s. I'm still like, I don't look it. I look good for my age. Don't get me wrong. I'm just kidding, by the way. But like, I felt that, I just didn't know like what it was going to bring. And watch these movies like Old School and things like that. And then I'm like, great, I'm going to be that old. They're going to be like, yeah, let's go to like the bar or whatever, you go for studying. And then here's me like the older person, like, okay. I just, those, I think those are my worries. I think those were really my things, like just, like being able to do the work and then being, because it was a 2-year program in 1 year and it was very stressful. Like, I just knew going into it would be stressful, and I knew I could handle stressful job stress, no problem. Like, but can I handle schoolwork stress? Like, it's just a different type of entity. I just really was not sure I'd be able to do it, but I just was like, gonna do my best in my head, like I could do this, I just, and, had a really good support system with my family. I'm very close to them. So they were like, you've got this. And so I just went into it with a good mindset and very positive, and just was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do the best I can and I'll get through it. And that was really, that was probably like, those were the hardest things for me doing that. But
okay, so first of all, Carrie said that she likes to think she's in her 20s. And the most fun, like some of the most fun I've had in the US that was like really spontaneous, I think I had it with you. It started with meeting you a week after I got here. And we met in the funniest way because we were in a room where Carrie was the oldest person and I was the only Black person. So, and I think like it was a serious event that I will not be mentioning ever. We can never mention the event. But we just looked at each other and we were like, this is really boring, right? And that was the connection. And a week later, she was going to New York to move the rest of her stuff to grad school. And that was my first time in America. I had never been anywhere outside, literally Georgetown. And she's like, "Do you want to come?" And I say yes. And that was my first time. Like, she took me to Times Square. We got there at night. So we had to explore at night. We went to, I think we tried to see the subway or something. So definitely you have a lot of 20s energy. I wish I had all that energy. I'm the 80-something-year-old in this friendship. So that's the first part. And the second part is that I think that when you finally came down to DC, you really, really got into it. And, it was your grades were a testament. I mean, not just your grades, because I'm not like a huge fan of focusing just on grades, but I think you got really into the program. You understood the system really, really well. I know that there were days when it wasn't always smooth, but you kind of eventually found your way, and it was beautiful to experience that or to witness that. And so for the people who are listening and who are curious about this switch from, do I have the capacity to deal with this school stress, to the point where you realized, okay, yeah, so sometimes I actually understand what to do, or I have this in control. Like, can you tell us how you coped?
Well, I did do some drinking. I mean, that actually helped me a little.
I can attest to that too.
Like, that, I, what I use, I mean, besides having the drinks here and there, I think for me, how I cope with it was working out, and Georgetown had a really great facility. And the great part about it, when, you're going to school, is you could take these, you could sign up for these extracurricular activity type of things being a student, and I took advantage of it. I mean, I just signed up for squash and tennis, and there was, what was the other one? Racquetball. It was I did a lot of racket sports. So it was really, I mean, for me, learning to, I mean, tennis I already did, but learning new sports, and I think just for me, walking to school, I lived in Georgetown, and walking to school, getting the exercise in, really helped me manage the stress of school. I have to say, and also, I joined a club too, outside of it, the university club, and just meeting people in the area, for me, just different professions and things like that, also helped me get through it. And just, I think that's really, for me, more so, just trying to take care of myself and maintaining a semi-healthy lifestyle while I was there. Got me through it. Just gave me more time to do it, because, working, school, you have your schedule you make out, and you just kind of schedule yourself throughout the day. And I kind of like that. I was like, okay, at this hour I could do this, at that hour I could do this. And it just, you just plan your day, and I like that part of it. A little more freedoms, and we have Fridays off, which was really great. So
yeah, definitely. I missed the fact that we could sign up for activities in the first semester, and then I tried to sign up for swimming in the second semester. Carrie, you might remember this. I tried to sign up to learn how to swim, and I mistakenly signed up to be on the school swimming team. And I was wondering why our first week of training was to dive in the deep side of the swimming pool. And I'm like, okay, now that's a steep learning curve, but okay. And I remember when I eventually found out, and it was already full, and the next session, basically, it was COVID-19, and everybody was locked down. So please don't be like me. Especially if you attend Georgetown, your school might also offer services like this, where you can sign up to learn different sports. I mean, you can also sign up to be on different teams, but I guess if you already have the skills. And then, I knew I was going to forget, but you said something else that was very funny, or I think very important.
drinking.
The drinking part, for real, I feel like you just have to. I feel like you come into grad school thinking you're going to only have healthy coping mechanisms, but who are we kidding? Okay, but then also going into the program, I know you part of the reason you decided to go for the program was that encounter you had with the new unit or the boss in the new unit at work. But when you finally decided, okay, like you had put in your leave, like put in your documentation for your leave of absence and things like that, were there a few things you felt like, okay, yeah, like these are the things that I would gain by going for this degree? Like at the end of the line, these are like maybe the two things or the one thing or the half thing that I hope I would have at the end of this degree. And what were those things? And it doesn't have to be, just like physical things. It could be even attributes.
I would just say that's just a good question. I think for me, like what I wanted to gain from it was, like just finding out more about myself and what I like to do within the job that I have now. Being a detective, like what area that I want to go in within my own job. So it gave me that ability to figure that out. And when I came back from school, being able to utilize the degree, really utilizing what I had, and coming back during the COVID, really challenging time. And but I had an interview with it was, I came back, when you come back from any kind of school, they make you like do these interviews with different units that they would see you feel to utilize your degree. They have these units that you could write policy or do different things to really have the department use you. I mean, they did send me away for school for a year, so now they want me to be able to help them. So I did. I was actually utilized in a way of helping write police reform. So that for me, having my degree and being able to use it to do that, and working for the police commissioner, and just working for the mayor. I mean, just helping come up with this great team of people changes to our department that needed changes. So I felt so good doing that. Really, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, wow, I'm here. I'm actually here with the degree that I have, doing just something I really enjoy doing. And I did make the right decision going to school. Like, that's what I felt like, because I'm like, what am I going to do with this degree? Am I really going to use it? And I did. So it made me happy. Like, it made me really happy that somebody saw something in me to really put me in that position where I was. It was a wonderful experience. So going to school, gaining that knowledge, using it, and it really just helped me to find my place of where I want to be, hopefully when I retire, like things I do want, things I don't want, stuff like that. So it made me happy that way.
First of all, you talk so passionately about your work, which is really, really cool. And I'm happy you were able to go through this process and have this fulfillment at the end of the day, because I think that grad school can be a very harrowing experience. And so there is something certain about knowing that after going through that experience, you're able to look back and say, yes, it was actually worth my while. Okay. Something very related to the response that you have given is that something that did cross your mind was the fact that, hey, like there is a possibility that I might be the oldest person in the class. And when you did resume, was that true? And did that ever cross your mind within, like, okay, like the classroom setting? Were there circumstances that happened that made you particularly feel it? And what would be your advice to other people who are worried about experiencing this?
I think with different classes, I think the hardest part for me was getting into groups or being assigned people. That I felt like was hard for me, because there were, feeling like, oh wow, like really the oldest one here, but it was like in my head, I feel like more so than anything that, like, oh, what am I doing? Like, like this was like, everybody here is so much younger and they don't really want to hear what I have to say or things like that. And I think it was like more in my head, but I think that was things that crossed my mind. And I know I just had to be like, and there were some instances where, I was in a group and, was kind of left out with certain things, and I just addressed it. Like, I just was like, I had to be like, no, I'm part of this group too. Like, this is a group effort, and you can't, exclude anybody. It's and I think it's just, they weren't doing it. The person, well, I shouldn't say they. So the person, it was like just like the different instances with people more so. And I think it was just, for me, I had to look at it as, that's something that's within themselves and I can't take it personally. And if they're doing it, I have to address it. And, it's not an easy thing to do, but I am the older person here and I have to do that. Like, for me, like, and for that person, because maybe they're not realizing it, that they're doing something that's making somebody feel uncomfortable or left out. So being like, things like that were kind of, like, it's different situations, or, being assigned a person that you end up doing more work and you're like, okay, well, you know what, like, maybe our personalities clash, or, you don't want to work with me. Well, you're going to work with me. And if you don't like it, I'm sorry. But, like, I had to be like that in person. And at the end of the day, just, it's hard. I think stuff like that's hard. And that's what I actually spoke to the professors, because when I first went to Georgetown, people thought I was a professor because I'm walking around school with, I wear a suit to work. So I'm wearing my suit, I'm wearing business attire, and other graduates are wearing, they're wearing jeans and me more casual, or summertime, I know they're so shorts or whatever. And so for me, it was, being the age of some of the professors, it was easy for me to go up and talk to them about certain things because we were around the same age, and I have a lot of life experience, and be able to address certain things that maybe they were doing. Like, I really don't think it's a good idea that you do this because of what I experienced, and maybe you need to switch it up or not have, like, just certain things that came up like that, maybe with partners or that I found, that were difficult for me. And I think it was because of, my age, but, you overcome it, and I think you just need to speak up. I mean, I'm not a shy person. So, I mean, for me, that's my personality. I just don't hold things in too much, but yeah, so I think like that part was like a little bit like, and then just going out sometimes, like, okay, yeah, let's all go out after school. Like, let's meet up before school. Let's go to the bar. They had a bar right in the school. So it was like, yeah, we're going to, like, let's meet up there before class. So then I would just be like there, and I'm like, all right. Not that they treated me any differently because they invited me, but I still, like, I always felt like in my head, like, okay, stay for a couple of drinks and leave. Not really hang out all night with them and stuff. So, but yeah, I think that's really.
Well, you know that you could always hang out with me until I fell asleep. So
That's the best person to hang out with, because I would go to Reilley, and she would be, I brought you to, I remember we went to go watch the Bills game, and oh my gosh, now I got Bailey into, American football, but I actually forced it on her because I'm such a football fan, and especially being from Buffalo, which, I moved here. That was something that it was a little bit challenging from there to the city, but I always kept my roots and my Buffalo Bills. And we went to the bar and we were sitting around and watching the game. And
you forgot to tell them that you made me dress up like a true Buffalo Bills fan.
Oh my gosh, that's right. Yes, I am so sorry. I know, I look back at it, I'm like, I was like, no, you have to wear this. Like, I said, this is what you do in America. You have to wear it. And I'm like, the Bills is the best team. And so, like, here's me forcing Bailey to put on Buffalo Bills gear, going out with me to the Bills games. But you were such a trooper. You did it. And
it's okay. You can tell them.
To Buffalo. Yeah. I brought her to Buffalo with me in the cold, with the snow and all that for Thanksgiving. And the Bills are playing on Thanksgiving. And I had her, I think I made you wear the Bills shirt that day too.
Yes,
Did
you
I do that?
did.
Yeah, I was like, to come to my house, he has a
And everybody turned up wearing something related to the football.
Yes. And yeah,
But
so
Carrie, you're also so sweet, because if I had told a story and you were me, I would have told. So the why Carrie was laughing was because the very first time you took me to watch a Bills game, I fell asleep in the bar. Do you
yes, you did.
remember? And the guy kept trying to wake me up, and then you had to tell him I was praying.
He wanted to kick us out. He's
So
like,
I just want you guys to know that I can sleep anywhere at any time.
I was like, wait a minute. Are you kidding me? I go, she's not sleeping. She's praying right now. And he was like, what? I go, yeah, she's praying. She's praying for the Bills.
I had a power nap. It was that was the best like friendship block ever. She let me sleep.
I did. And, I was just so happy you came with me. I mean, you just were such a trooper. And, I'm in DC. There's no Bills fans in DC. So it's really nice you come along, with me. And you always been.
The Bills will always be a team after my heart. And I think after I started supporting them partially, they started winning. So you guys are welcome.
You're like our good luck charm. Hopefully we'll go to the Super Bowl this year.
Oh my God. So. Carrie, I forgot that they're still playing. So I'm just going to rush through the last questions. Like, I just realized when we were talking about them and I'm like, oh my God. Are you watching in the background at least?
I am not. You have my undivided attention.
So, yeah. Carrie, I feel like I took you through a very rough, dark, sad part where number one, I asked you some intense questions about work and then about grad school, especially things that you don't like. And so I would love for us to lighten this. So I want to ask you, what was your favorite part about going to grad school? What were some things that made it a very memorable experience? And what was the most exciting part for you, basically?
I have to say the best part of going to graduate school was meeting you, Bailey. I know. You're the best.
You won't make me cry.
I have to say that. No, really, that was the best part. Yeah.
Carrie.
Yeah. And I truly mean it from the bottom of my heart. You just are
I'm glad I took that crazy trip with you too, with a stranger.
I know. Oh my gosh, it's so funny too, because I think your family thought I was Black.
Everybody thought you were Black, right? And I was like, yeah, so I'm going with my friend and she works with the NYPD, and they're like,
oh my gosh.
So everybody was really trying to make sure that, number one, that you were even a real person, because really I had just moved to America and I did not know anybody. So it was like everybody was trying to play detective to make sure that you were real.
Yes, I guess.
And I'm so glad, I'm so glad I met you too. I'm so glad I went for that event and our paths crossed. Because you made this a very memorable experience for me as well.
Yeah, I mean, you're a big part of my life.
I disturb Carrie at least 5 times a year. I'm like, I'm in your city, or when are you coming to my city? And then I go to hang out with her and fall asleep. That's what I do, guys.
Still good. It's okay.
Okay, but I'm sorry. You were telling us about your best part, and I got emotional.
Well, besides you, wow. I think the best part was just being able to graduate and get my degree within that year. And even though it was COVID, for me, like my high school graduation year, I failed. I had to go to summer school, so I didn't walk down the aisle with, my people from my high school. So that was kind of difficult for me. And then college came, and then I end up walking, with my class, but I didn't get my degree until I thought I was going to get it. I had like one summer class and I was going to get it, because they just give you like a piece of paper when you go up there. You don't get your real certificate. So I ended up going to summer school, but then I passed summer school. I did fine, but I didn't get my degree. And because of something that I didn't, like this entrance test or something I forgot to take. I took it was a math thing. So like, you have to come back. We're not giving you a degree because you didn't have it. So then I didn't get my degree. I had to go back to Buffalo again. And I didn't go back for another 3 years to take the test to get my degree. So then I had to wait on that. So finally I get to, here I am in graduate school. I'm like, I am just going to do whatever I can so I can walk down that aisle and I'm going to finish something on time, which for me was a big accomplishment because I felt like everything prior to that wasn't on time. Nothing was ever what it was supposed to be. But little did I know that COVID would hit. And right when we're about to graduate, we went through that. It was really a difficult time, which I have to say, like, through graduate school was probably, if we talk about difficult times, which, COVID, hitting while, you're there and you're alone and, not being able to walk down the aisle, getting it, that degree, but getting it this year in May, walking down the aisle, getting it and being like, wow, I accomplished this. I did this within that year. And even though I couldn't walk down the aisle, even though I was like, wow, what just happened to me again? Like nothing's happening to timing, but timing isn't always everything. It just was the way the world was at that time. And it was out of my hands. That was not in my control. So I knew that I did what I had to do within the time I needed to do it. So it was really, for me to be able to do that and get that degree, it was just an amazing feeling for myself. And COVID got in the way, but it happened. And it's something I won't forget going through school, going through COVID, but I'm sure a lot of us won't forget it either. I mean, you went through it too. So it's, I think that for me was my, biggest thing to take out of it was a degree, getting it.
Okay, first of all, I want to say that a win is a win because, I know it wasn't the time that you wanted it, but I'm also super proud of you. I didn't even know, the thing about how sentimental it was for you to walk down the aisle, and I'm so happy that you were able to make the event. And then also, I know that when you said this initially, I was laughing and joking about it, but for real, Carrie, I think you were one of the first, I met you and I think I met your nemesis. No, I think I met your nemesis and I met you.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
You
don't
were
tell her what because then it will look sound.
I will be calling no names.
Yeah, we'll be the no name person right now
because no name. But you were the first person to take me out of Georgetown. That day, I think we met 3 days before my birthday. You were the first person in the DMV to even celebrate my birthday with me. And that was very sentimental because I was all alone. So you hold a very dear, very, very dear space in my heart. And when I thought about making this podcast, also because you had told me about your podcast before, I really wanted you to be one of the first people. So it didn't matter to me that it took this long. I am so glad that you're here. And I'm really glad our paths crossed. And I really love you. Now, this is sealed in ill. This mushiness is sealed for all eternity on this episode. Yeah,
no.
but thank you. And your mom also adopted me too.
Yeah, she did.
You were mad because you felt like I was getting along more with your mom than you were with her that period. So
I know.
It was your whole family, and that was just beautiful. So thank you. Thank you for being so amazing.
And the dog too. My sister's dogs.
Oh my God, yes. And I didn't like dogs. Let me tell you. So this will be the last random off story we tell. I promise that I'll ask Carrie the last question and let her get back to the Bills game. So Carrie invited me to Buffalo and she conveniently forgot to tell me that her sister had 2 dogs. Now, if you know me, you know that I'm afraid of dogs because my family dog has chased me before. So I don't really do dogs. But for the first time, I was really able to connect with dogs. I got really close to them. Oh my God, it was Bosco.
Yo, Bosco loved you. Yes.
Yeah. And now I can't even remember. Diggs! Yes!
Diggs. Oh my God.
I need to visit soon.
They loved you too. Oh my gosh. really, truly, I think even Bosco like laid down.
Yeah.
It was really
Yeah,
sweet.
there was this one
I,
night, like he came to sleep on my bed. You guys know I'm Nigerian. The dogs do not sleep on the bed, guys. But the dog slept on the bed that day. So that was really like your family really welcomed me and your family, Carrie. That's just it. Okay, my
I know.
last question, because I'm a woman of my
Now,
words.
you're
Do you have
stuck.
any random advice for like the girls and the guys them out there? Like it can be anything. It can be fun, Carrie. Like I don't know. It can be serious. Just you decide. What do you like? Tell us something to part with. Something you like to be remembered with.
I would say the advice is because school is not cheap, okay? Really know what you're going to get into and really feel like you're gonna love what you're gonna do. Because with Georgetown, listen, I got a partial scholarship, but I'm $90,000 in student loan debt. And I'm gonna tell you, like, it's thank goodness, well, I have to start paying it back once next year, like sometime, but because of the COVID holds, but it's going, it really adds up. So really know what you want to do before you go to school, because it is an investment, but it's an investment for you. And if you're going to use something with it, like, for me with work, I was able to, write policy, which I went to school, for policy, and so for it worked out in my case. But just know what you're doing, and then listen to your heart, and just go for it. Like, don't, if you're older like me, just go for it if you really want to go for it. And I don't know, I think it was the best decision I've made. It's happiness is everything. That's the way I look at it. Just be happy. At the end of the day, do what you love and try something new, and take a chance. So that's really all I have to say in terms of that.
Those are
But
very sorry.
yeah, I don't know.
Okay, Carrie, those were really, I think that those are very powerful words to end with, like just try. First of all, be sure that it's what you want to do. And, when you're certain, because of course it costs a lot of money, when you have decided, go all out, try out things, be adventurous. I think Carrie has showed us that. I think Carrie, for real, you are one of the most adventurous people that I know. And that's why I felt it was very important for you to come on this podcast, because you taught me really that there is no such thing as too old, like to start. And I'm not saying this just because I'm your friend. I saw Carrie put in such tremendous amount of work into the grad school program, and it reflected in everything she did. And it was just such a proud moment, like at the end of the day, having that degree. I think sometimes in the process it was very chaotic. There were times when we would DM each other like, oh my God, like what's happening? What are we supposed to do here? But at the end of the day, it was all worth it. And I'm so glad that, you were able to get that degree. So thank you so much for coming to hang out with us, Carrie. I know I promised that will be the last question. To the listeners, I hope like listening to Carrie and hearing her talk about her story has helped you and will help you make better grad school decisions and will definitely motivate you to apply. Thank you for chilling with us. If you enjoyed this episode, you know where to find us. Don't forget to follow us. And Carrie, would you like to share with them where they can find you, or would you like to go ghost on us? It's okay to go ghost.
You can always, if you want to shoot me an email, you can always shoot me an email. I'll give you my private email, Carrie, Carrie, Reilley, Reilly, at Verizon.net. So if you want to reach out to me and if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. And, anything I can do to help, that's what I'm here for. So I wish you the best of luck with anything you decide to do. And thank you, Bailey, for having me on the show. And I'm so proud of you. You really helped me get through grad school, and you really did. And your friendship and just everything about you, I just love you to death. And I just think really just, you make me
Carrie,
proud.
I'm sorry. This is why I mute myself. I love you to that too. Okay, Carrie, I'm going to let you go for real. Please go. Please go.